views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Get ready to experience the truth. Welcome to Truth Talk Radio with your host, Deb Acker. Truth Talk Radio is the hit show that will illuminate the truth in your daily life as you experience life, love, and abundance from a whole new perspective. Unleash your intuitive nature while Deb helps you stop looking outside yourself for value and happiness, break through patterns, and move into your authentic truth at lightning speed. Truth Talk Radio will leave you feeling lighter, help you live with more presence, passion, and clarity, and bring you into a place of infinite possibilities every day in every way. Now here's your host, Deb Acker.
Hello, everyone. I'm Deb Acker, and you are listening to Truth Talk on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with me for the next hours. I help you experience the truth, nothing but the truth. Each month on the first and third Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, we'll rotate between some of the most gifted, inspiring, and unique souls, speakers, and authors, helping to move you into more light, love, and, of course, truth, along with some of the newest energies and newest awarenesses that are coming into the planet. And before we get started today, I'd like to start out today's show with an intention. And my intention for today's show is that everyone that needs to hear this conversation hears it, and that you leave feeling inspired, expansive, lit up, and open to receiving the awarenesses and energies that want to come through. And today, again, I will be interviewed by my amazing intuitive virtual assistant, Elizabeth Jackson, about some important and undiscussed energies that can help you to create and reframe each year to be great, no matter what's occurring. And make sure to tune in next time, as I will be interviewing Hay House author Rebecca Campbell about her new book, Rise, Sister, Rise. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
Hi, Deb. Lovely to speak to you again.
Hello. How's it going? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So I'm very excited about today's show. I thought the last one was amazing. And I think it's really nice that we can share some of the chats that we have, because we speak quite often and the chats are just amazing, aren't they? So this is so nice to be able to share them.
Yeah. No, I love all the energies that get brought up when we're talking.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's super, super fun.
So 2017, show number 1.
Yes, 2017, woohoo! I know a lot of people were excited to complete 2016, but 2017 is proving to be. It's going to be I can feel like there's I think part of what's being called in this year is for really people, and we did a show on this even at the end of 2016, but really people stepping into their power, right? And choosing their truth and honoring themselves. So I really think that that's being a piece of what's being called forth at the beginning of 2017. Yeah. So, what I wanted to talk about, one of the things I wanted to talk about today was really all about what it takes to really create a great year. And even more importantly than that, like a reframe that came to me when I was looking at 2016 and how my 2016, when I was evaluating how I felt about my 2016, there was a reframe that came to me that was really, really cool. And it was a really awesome, I felt like a really awesome way to shift what how all of us can perceive what's happening in each given year. And the reframe that came to me was really all about growth, right? And really starting to reshift. So, as beings, we get so conditioned to just sort of be seeking only good, right? And when I'm talking about seeking only good, I'm really talking about the seeking only good in the traditional sense, right? Where, only good things we want. We only want things that are fun. We only want things that are happy. We only want things that feel life.
That's what I want. Yes, please.
Yeah, exactly. So it was and I used to feel that way too. I totally was wired that way. It was totally all about I just want the good, right? And I'm just seeking the good. And I still have those places in my human space where I'm like, what about this? Like, and I tend to, to go towards that. But one
Yeah.
of the things that's really been calling to me, and it's been calling to me for a while now, but it's really became very clear at the end of 2016 as I was evaluating my year, was this reframe on I was looking at it from the soul perspective and really looking at the fact that my soul came here to grow. My soul came here to grow. It came here to expand. It really didn't just come to experience only good things, right? Like, if I always say, when I talk about being in the energy state, I always talk about, in the energy state when we're not in our physical bodies. So if you imagine just like when you're just in energy and you're so expansive and you're everywhere and you're really in your power, because when we're in our energy state, we are in the place of being powerful manifestors. Like when you're in that energy state, you think of something and it happens instantaneously.
Yeah,
And
we'll
so,
get
go
when
ahead.
you do the meditation at the end. That's when we get a taste of stepping into the energy state, isn't it? When we do the expansion, when you get a glimpse of that. Yeah.
Exactly. And that is meant to help us return, because we're all powerful manifestors, but we've completely shut that down. And so that energy state is really all about, and the activations I like to take people into are really all about us returning to that powerful place and returning, having that memory of being in an energy state. With all that being said, though, we came down here in our physical bodies to have the full experience. If I wanted it to be all good, I would have stayed in my energy state. So I came down here in my physical body to experience it all, to have the highs, to have the lows, to have the full range, and to grow and to expand as a being, right? To experience all of the energies so that I could keep shifting and clearing and quote unquote healing, though nothing's wrong with us to begin with. But
Can I just stop you there, Deb?
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
you're giving all this amazing information, and I think it would be really fascinating if you could explain a little bit how you get this, because you say, oh yeah, I got this, as if you went to the shop and got some bread. I mean, this doesn't happen to a lot of people. So, and then you're talking about my soul came here too. So at what point do you get this information? Is it like you just know it gets downloaded in a second when you just like washing the dishes, or is it gradual, or is it journaling, or is it meditation? Because you are talking about this very fluidly, but it's fascinating how you get this information as well.
Yeah, no, so yeah, I do talk about this because it has become part of my everyday experience. So I talk about this like it's like just like everyday conversation. But a lot of what happens, so a lot of times I'm getting downloaded, right? So something just comes in and it's like a pop, and then I'm like, oh my God, that's whoa, that's so cool. And it just, or like I'll be talking and it just like is getting downloaded through me as I'm communicating, right? So that's one way.
I've heard that happen to you a lot. You can tell actually in some of the radio shows, because I used to think that before I worked with you, I used to think that your radio shows were like the meditation bit was pre-recorded because it was so fluid. I thought, oh, she's done that in a professional studio, because the pace is so wonderful. And then when we spoke, and then I realized you were literally downloading it, it was coming through you. But I mean, that doesn't happen to me, for example.
Yeah. So it's like, so some of it's that way, and then some of it's like I'll get an idea to play with something. And so, for instance, this is actually totally random. My my guides gave me in another lifetime I used to work in a saloon. My guides gave me. Yeah, which is so fun. Yeah, totally. It's like such a fun image, right? So I used to run a saloon, and people would come into the saloon. This is my guides told me this, right? So people would come into a saloon with to come in and in the drinks. So I'd slide the drinks down the bar, like if you just imagine you're in that saloon, and I'd slide the drinks down the bar, and people would be so excited to get these drinks because they were like filled with the energy, right? They were filled with that love and light. And so one of the things my guides suggested, like they just kind of planted the seed, was okay, so, this was an energy in another lifetime, and we'd like you to bring even more of this energy in. And so what they did was they said, pure suggestion, but if you go get a saloon costume, because that's going to help you to even activate more and more and more of that energy. And so I bought this costume, and I have yet to put it on. I was like,
oh, you should have worn it for the show.
Oh yeah, exactly. But it's just one of those things where there's so many different fun ways that we can activate an energy, and I bring up that example because it is so random. We're not thinking about like, oh my God, I'm gonna put a costume on and that's gonna help me activate an energy that I want to bring forth more of, into this world right now, more of, into the planet. And so as I've been doing, my love, light, and abundance energy clearings, and I've got, a program that's going to be coming out shortly, an energy clearing program that everyone can access. That's going to be coming out shortly, which is going to be amazing, and just a huge clearing program. But as I've been doing that, it's like, I'm choosing to step into more of those energies as well, right? It's like we teach what we need to learn the most. And so that was just something that was super fun and super random, and they communicated it to me. And that was actually through a friend of mine. She was talking to me about something, and we just came up with this. We both got the picture where it was like, oh, like I can totally see myself. I see that happening. I see what I was doing. I could feel that I was in that energy. I felt that people were just like coming in by the droves just to experience that fun, light, golden energy that we all kind of really, really love and want to have, be experiencing at all times. And so, so it comes in different ways, and I'm constantly just asking, okay, like I notice something and I'll say, okay, is this an awesome way to expand? Is this something that we can do, to really like expand ourselves and to, really, just step into more of that energy. And it's fun, and it works every time, right? Because it's like I'll start to play with something, and then I'll realize like, oh my gosh, I'm choosing more and more and more of it. So it's really, really beautiful.
So just like from a practical perspective, just me as your VA, I can really see how like we work together to create your social media. And one of the things that's really important for us is that everything that goes out there is uplifting and light filled, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like so important, isn't it? So you can actually find Deb on Twitter and on Facebook, and there's some beautiful, instead of calling them quotes, they're like reframed. So it's like reframing situations, and they are always very uplifting, aren't they?
Yeah, like we both have set the intention, but I've always set the intention like I want my social media, I want everything that I put out to create an energy within each person that's reading it, each person that's experiencing it. Like I want it to create a lot of what I write about, a lot about all of the reframes and quotes I do are all channeled quotes that like my guides have given to me that I've just been channeling through my own experiences and through the message that I came to put out in the world.
I mean, that's just another nugget of gold. The messages that are coming through, that are going out on social media, the ones that are from Deb, they're channel messages from her guides. I mean, how wonderful is that? I think that's just beautiful,
Yeah. Well, and I came here to help people reframe their pain. And so,
reframe their pain. Wow.
Yeah, because it's like it goes back to like a lot of what it goes back to is like we are conditioned to think only want the good and to sort of resist the bad or push it away, stuff it down, escape from it. All the different ways that we sort of move away from it, right? And I like through my own story of pain and experiences, like just I'll give you like the brief version of it is basically when I was 2 years old, my dad left my dad left our house, right? And in that moment, what I made up was that I would always be left. This was all subconscious, right? These were subconscious conclusions that I made up in that moment, but that I would always be left. And my dad loved me, and so that love equaled leaving. Now, of course, too, at the time, he was leaving my mother. He wasn't leaving me. But my 2-year-old
Yeah.
self didn't have the way to differentiate him leaving my mother or him leaving me. And so what ended up happening, and the way I always talk about my work, is that those conclusions, that energy, those emotions got stored in my body, and they ended up setting me up for an experience where I was recreating that experience over and over and over again. And so fast forward to when I'm 17 years old, and my mother passes away from cancer. And this might sound drastic to some of our listeners, but I will say to you, I believe that a piece of me created that experience, right? And my mother was also creating her own experience. She wasn't so super aware of that in that moment, but I also know that I was putting that energy out there. Like, I remember a time when I was maybe, I don't know if I was 8 or 12 years old. I remember a time I was sitting in front of, we had a big bay window. And I did this quite often. And my sister, I have a twin sister. And so we both did this, and I talked to her about it later. And I asked her, I said, Lisa, did you remember having this fear that mom wouldn't come home? And she's like, oh yeah, I lived in that, right? Because my mom, when I was growing up, she was our primary support system, right? She was my best friend. She was my mom. She was my sister. And my sister had the same experience of her. And so I remember sitting in front of our big bay window, and I remember, having this fear every night, like, oh my God, is she going to come home? Right. So I would be worrying about her coming home, and I'd always feel so relieved when when I'd hear the garage door open, and I knew she was safe again. And so, think about that energy being put out into the world over and over and over again. Right.
Yeah.
And, fast forward, like I said, my mother was also co-creating her experience. So, it was by no means just that energy that was getting put out there, but we were co-creating our own experience. Right. And so, fast forward to when I'm 17 and she passes away. And then, of course, I went and took that energy, because I still hadn't cleared it. It hadn't healed. I went and I took that energy out into the world, and started attracting the same type of guys to show up for me like that over and over and over again, where they kept, where I kept wondering, like, what could I do differently? What could I shift? And I knew it was related to, that 2-year-old experience. And yet, like, having the awareness of my story in that moment, and, and in those moments, was not changing it. And so that was really, that was the start of my journey, right? That was the start of my journey to really start to figure out, like, okay, what can I do? There's few things that drive us, right? But love and abundance are the things that, like, a lot of people are really going for and searching for. And for me, the start of my journey, I'm, getting back on my path was all about, I at the time I was, like, looking for my love partner, right? So I wanted to
Yeah.
clear and heal that. I wanted to clear and really heal that pattern. So that was the start, the impetus for my journey, right? That was that piece. And so fast forward now, we're 4.5 years, almost 5 on my journey. And I look back, and I've now cleared that abandonment pattern, which, if you ask anyone that's had a deep seated pattern like that, most of us determine and think that we're just going to live with that the rest of our lives, right? You can manage it, and you can know how to sort of, choose out of it and breathe through it, and, and really experience the trigger, but actually know how to breathe within the trigger. But to actually know, I've got, like, a few little tendrils left on it, but the main pieces of it, I talked to my guide about my abandonment pattern, and they said, you're going to clear it in this lifetime. And I
Oh my
never,
God.
I never thought that was even possible, let alone to be able to do that. And clearing patterns, through this work, right? Through the fact of, like, recognizing, so many of us, we're not able to tune into that moment when we made up all these crazy conclusions that now are, uh, attracting our present day experience, right? And so what I help my clients do is to tune into those moments when we're 2, when we're 5, when we're 7, and tune into what conclusions were made up in those moments, and clear them, so that we can start to attract our actual true reality and what we're truly wanting, versus these patterns from our, from our childhood. And so a lot of that is, it's so, I described the moments I just described were really big moments, right? I'm 2 years
Yeah.
old, I'm 17, losing my mother. But I can tell you that so many things that we take on are actually not at all that those big moments like that, right? We might be sitting, I always use the example, like we might be sitting, you might be sitting in the kitchen and you ask your mother for a piece of chocolate and she might say, no, you should have an apple. And of course she has your best interest, right? Of course she wants the best for you. But in that moment, subconsciously, this is all subconscious stuff, you might make up that you don't know what you want for yourself, right? Because here's somebody who's an authority figure, who loves you, who cares about you, and she's telling you, no, you want this, not this. So you might make that up in that one moment, or you might make up that you can't have what you want. And just some small moment, just as simple as that, can get stored in the body. The energy, the emotion gets stored in the body. And then all of a sudden it becomes a magnetizer for your present, for your modern day experience. And then we wonder why, oh my gosh, I'm going out into the world and why do I continually keep getting rejected? Well,
Gosh, yeah. And until you can reframe the pain and work with someone who can help you to clear it. I mean, I've worked with a lot of energy healers, but I don't think I've ever worked with anyone who would go back to a certain time and say, okay, what's the pattern there? Can we clear it?
yeah.
That's
And that,
really interesting.
it's really, really powerful because and many people come to me and they say like, well, I don't know what happened during that time. I'm like, you don't have to know. Like my guides will show me like the root of the pain. Right. And so I was in a class recently and, there was someone that had gone through a traumatic moment, a traumatic situation in her 20s. And so my teachers, they're not energy clearers. They work with relationship and intimacy. So they work with something completely different. But this was coming up. It was actually in the framework of relationship and intimacy, and it was coming up in this group. And so what was coming forth for her, and the space that was being held was really coming forth from this thing that happened in her 20s. Well, when I went in and looked at the energy, I was like, sweetie, this originates from when you're 5 years old. It doesn't originate from your 20s. And so, it's age 5, it's your mother, and the energy was powerlessness. And so the experience that was created in her 20s was from the energy of powerlessness, right? And so, my goal in working with my clients isn't just to clear, the thing that's happening in your present day, because if you clear that and you don't clear the root of it, you're going to end up like, it might be less, it might show up a little differently, it might be a little nuanced, but it's likely still going to keep occurring if you're clearing it from the present day experience and you don't go back to its root.
The cords are just going to keep growing again, aren't they?
Exactly. So, the heart, at the heart of the work that I do is to go back to that original moment and to go back and say, this is the root of it. Let's clear that. So the part of how I describe it is like these moments from childhood hold a lot of energy on them. I mean, I go back to when I'm 2 years old, and that moment when I'm 2 and I'm like I said, I do have an energetic picture of that in my mind. Now, whether that's really a picture that happened in reality or it's the picture that my guides give me to help me access that energy, I have a picture of that in my mind. And that moment holds a lot of energy. And the goal of my work is, if you imagine all that energy that moment holds, which part of what holds that energy is the voice that my inner little girl wanted to have in that moment. I wanted to have I needed to have my voice in that moment. I needed to say, Dad, don't leave. Right. And so, it's the voice that I wanted to have in that moment. And I'm wanting him to show up differently. Of course, like within my, my heart's desires, I'm wanting to have a different experience. And so, within that moment, it holds so much energy. And once you take the energy off of the original moment, so you no longer, like you give that little girl the voice she needed in that moment, right? And you take the energy off of it, all of a sudden, the energy loosens. So you imagine the energy starts to free, right? So it's like this ball of energy, the energy starts to free, and it can no longer attract what you've been attracting, since you came down in this physical body.
Gosh.
Yeah. So
That's really powerful.
yeah, and that's, I talk about the way I talk about this work, and you brought up this question earlier, is all downloaded from my guides. Like, none of my teachers have ever given me the awarenesses this way. Like,
Yeah.
they give me great pieces, but this awareness, the way that I just talked about, that is all based from downloads, from channel downloads from other dimensions. And so yeah, I mean, I think it's so powerful when we realize that, our childhood holds so much of how we're creating and our present day experience. And a lot of times, think about it, it's like, you have your 5-year-old self running your current life, creating your current reality. And
Oh,
that's
wow.
not fun.
That's a really scary thought, isn't it? My 5-year-old self is running and creating my own reality.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not aware of it though, right? We're like, oh yeah, no, I'm making my choices because you're in your adult body and you think you're making conscious choices. But until we really go back to those moments and start to clear them and return more and more, instead of our inherited truths, to our actual truths, I mean, everything starts to change. And so we are going to take a quick break here. You are listening to Truth Talk, and I am your host, Deb Acker. When we return, we're going to explore more on these fascinating energies and on really creating a great year. So stay tuned. We will be right back.
On the cutting edge of the new mainstream, Christine Upchurch is passionate about bringing together science, psychology, and spirituality in a way that can be applied to our everyday lives for true transformation. The Christine Upchurch Show, stellar conversations to illuminate your journey, engages some of the most outstanding visionaries on the planet in lively dialogue to inspire you to become that bright light you're meant to be. Join Christine every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time on KKNW, AM 1150, and Transformation Talk Radio.
Tune in to Dynamics of Diversity Radio, scripting the new narrative for immigration with leading experts Kripa Upadhyaya and Steve Tanijo on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This show will remove the noise that often accompanies discussions on this topic and share a new perspective on the dynamics of immigration and diversity, ever reminding us that together we are all at the core of innovation, excellence, and positive change. Visit OrbitLawPLLC.com for upcoming topics. Artie Hoffman is the hottest psychic with the warmest heart and the host of the hit show Angels and Answers. A renowned psychic, medium, spiritual life coach, and an entertaining motivational speaker, Artie has helped over 15,000 people with his amazing intuitive gifts, his passion, and his humor. Call 877-ANGEL-02 to schedule a personal reading or to have your own psychic Artie party. That's 877-ANGEL-02. And visit ArtieHoffman.com and Angels and Answers on Facebook. Get ready to experience Truth Talk Radio with host Deb Acker. Tune in to Truth Talk Radio each Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com to illuminate the truth in your daily life as you experience life, love, and abundance from a whole new perspective. This hit show will leave you feeling lighter and bring you into a place of infinite possibilities every day in every way. Visit TruthTalkRadioshow.com for upcoming transformative topics and guests.
Chris Stanis is a spiritual leader and healer and teaches a course on how you can transform your life through a meditation and healing system that will manifest your spirit's dreams. She manifested the Women of Wisdom Conference, the Women of Wisdom book, and this radio show. And she can show you how to change your life too. Are you ready? Visit the website and contact her at voicesofwomentoday.com. That's voicesofwomentoday.com.
Did you know that all of the shows on the Transformation Radio Network are available as podcasts to stream or download?
Really?
Check us out. Go to transformationradio.fm. We have business shows, spiritual shows, energy healing shows, and pretty much everything in between. Something for everyone, guaranteed to inspire, educate, and transform. We are transforming the world, one listener at a time.
Welcome back to Truth Talk. I am your host, Deb Acker. Today, my VA and I, Elizabeth Jackson, are talking about creating a great year, reframing how we look at having a great year, and really talking about the different energies that are, that are really coming in and that are wanting to show up and wanting to be honored. And really as part of that, I was talking about this awareness of how my guide sort of downloaded me at the end of the year with like 2016 was not a good year by the way we would normally define it for me, but it felt really, really great because I grew and I expanded a ton, right? So it felt so great for just I could feel how much I shifted, how much I changed, how the different energies that I really, really moved into, and it was amazing. It was amazing when I looked at it from that perspective. I was in love with 2016. Like 2016 was like, whoa. It was it was an amazing year. And so I would encourage anyone that's listening to this program to really start to look at like, okay, wait, like I didn't come here just to experience only good things. I came here to learn and grow and expand. And really that every year can be great if I'm choosing new energies, right? If I'm choosing to expand more, if I'm choosing to grow more, if I'm choosing to really learn and I'm hearing ride the wild ride, right? Not just like, like the picture that I'm seeing right now is sort of like either, you're on a roller coaster or you're in I'm seeing on a raft, right? And like I maybe have touched on this. I don't know that I've talked about this analogy specifically in our program, but I want to talk about it right now. When you're on that raft or you're on that roller coaster, you have several options, infinite options, but two options that come to mind are like you can be really holding on really tight when you're on that raft or you're on the roller coaster, or you can put your arms up, right? And really lean into the fear and the fun and the riding the wave, right? The highs and the lows on the wave, and just you can either you can do that, or you can have the death grip and white knuckle it, right?
Yeah.
And there's one that's going to be, even though it's you might get wet, you might feel all this fear. There's one that's going to be a lot more fun, even if it's scary, even if it's like you can embrace it and lean into the fear, or you can be scared of it and really hold on so tight. And so I just encourage you, as you're going through each year, as you're going through each day, as you're going through your life, to begin, if you haven't already, to begin to put your arms up and really lean in and embrace it versus holding on and white knuckling, which is what most of us are doing, truthfully.
So I have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it goes back to what we were talking about before. So imagine if I'm working with you and I'm saying, okay, so I've got issues now with abandonment, and you say, okay, well, that actually goes back to when you were 7. And I can imagine that, like, I'm at the other end of the phone and I would probably feel fear at that point. I mean, what would my experience be of working through that? Because nobody actually wants to go back to that point of fear. That's the reason why a lot of us block it out, because it was so painful. So what happens in that actual moment? Do I have to relive the fear?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So first of all, before we even start to go through and bring up these awarenesses, I always connect someone to the light, right? So part of, if you imagine when you bring light all the way through your body, it's like a washing over of calm, right? It's just a washing over of truth and just of peace in your body. So you're automatically, it's a return. I always talk about, like the return to the truth of who we are and the truth of who we're meant to be. So right there, you've got this sort of just this, like this embodiment of calm and of peace that's already in your body. And so when I bring it up, many times we're bringing it up from like what conclusions were made in that moment. And, like I said, you might know them and you might not know them, but the guides always show me a picture of like, okay, like say for instance, like one picture I saw yesterday was someone, she was like shaking, like she was like her hands were shaking, right? And it represented one of the things, it represented panic and it represented chaos, right? And so we just go in and I'll look at that and I'll ask like, okay, what's like basically we'll go ahead and we'll clear those conclusions. And part of our conditioning is we're conditioned to think emotions are bad. We're conditioned to think, emotions are wrong. So the space that I hold, though, is one of love and light. And so it's interesting, right? Because I could definitely see where someone would be like, I'm terrified to go there. And yet I can't ever imagine a time in a session with someone, where that energy has been brought in because of the space that I'm holding. It's like you're being held in this really big hug, right? And so when you're when of course the emotions are coming up and people in my sessions, they cry and they release, but the seed that I always plant and that I'll plant on this call is, what if you never had to experience that pattern again? Would you go into the pain for a minute, 5 minutes, a session, if you never had to experience it again?
Yeah, and you're not going there on your own, are you? That's the whole point.
Exactly. Like and that's the thing. I know I when I work in groups and stuff, I'll get people that will say to me, they're like, oh, like, oh, I'll just do this on my own. And it's like, you can totally. And I'm going to tell you, like, first of all, like, part of the work that I've done has created the space for this. So I'm not going to just say like, oh, this is how I've always seen clearly, but the work that I've done, like a lot of energy clears, there's a nuance that happens. So a lot of energy clears, and in my experience even of working with them, is they get at the energy, but they kind of go around it. And the work that I've done in clearing myself to get to this level of just being able to see like crazy clear, right? So there's nuances in the energy that a lot of people aren't able to see, that, I mean, people have told me this time and time again, where I just get to the heart of the energy. So I go, it's kind of like if you imagine like a bullseye, and many people kind of go around the bullseye, and I go right to the center and the heart of it, right? And so, part of what I'm doing, I'm holding that space. I'm holding you in a big energetic hug. I'm holding you in a big energetic space for light. I'm also creating this space for you to move really quickly and shift really quickly, which is many times, like if you're doing this work by yourself, or, there's a lot of healers I've worked with that are like, oh, we've got to make sure this is too far, too fast. And my goal is really to help someone clear this and move through it as quickly as possible. Like I don't hold that space where you can't clear it in literally a minute if it can be cleared in that time, right? And I want to be clear, because the abandonment pattern for me is something I worked on, like I had the awareness of it up until the last 4.5 years, and then I worked on it intensely for 4.5 years. So I don't want to be like, oh, well, it just happened in one session, okay? And I do find that I do find in my sessions, especially in my classes, right, we do a ton of clearing, we move a ton of energy, and many times there's an expectation like, okay, like, so I'm healed, it's done, I'm fine, it's complete, right?
Yeah.
And yes, you can shift out of a pattern very quickly. Sometimes you shift out of the next layer of energy very quickly. But the thing that keeps you, that gets you to that state of peace, that gets you to that state of calm, that gets you to the place that no matter what's occurring, whether it's painful, whether it's fun, whatever, that you can handle it, is by doing energy clearing time and time and time again. It's not just by doing one session and walking out and saying, because people walk out in a state of euphoria. Many times in my energy clearing sessions, people walk out in a state of euphoria. In my classes, oh my God, people are like, oh my God, I feel calm. I just did one the other day, a class, and it was like, I feel calm, I feel excited, and because I bring in the heart of the energy state, right? So I bring in that heart of that state. And like, first of all, we didn't come here to have a constant state of anything, right? We didn't come here just to live in the state of peace and calm. We didn't come here just to live in the state of, all high, all good, right? So a huge piece of that.
Did.
Yeah, and thank you, because that is what we believe we did, right? Like, I used to think that too. So I'm gonna be like totally, blunt. I was seeking only good. I'm like, and I don't want the bad. But the truth, our soul would say, so our human selves would say, yes, I did, and our soul would say, no. You came here for the expansion. You came here for the growth, and like owning that, like the working on ourselves, right? So it's like it's like you can just go into and do one energy clearing session, and like I said, you're gonna leave amazing, and you might have cleared whatever you came there to clear. But if you're looking to know how to handle anything that's coming to you, no matter what is happening, no matter what is occurring, it's doing whether it's energy clearing or whatever calls to you. Okay. I'm not saying it's only energy clearing, but it's whatever calls to you. If it's if it's listening to books, if it's working with a mindset coach, whatever it is that calls to you, it's doing the work constantly, where you're not just like, okay, I had a session and I'm good. And so, many times it's really, really important that we drop the expectation, that we drop, the expectation that, okay, I'm healed now and everything's fine, right? Because I got news for you. No matter, I've been doing this work. So, I've been doing this work my whole life, but doing the work like very focused. So imagine every day, sometimes for hours a day, sometimes for 8 hours a day, right? So we're not joking around. So I've been doing this work for 4.5 years. So imagine, for between an hour to 8 hours to like crazy amounts of time every single day. And there's still more. Like, it's like you're just constantly, going higher and higher and higher energetically. So, but now, like, I hang out mainly in a, state of peace and calm. And when something comes to me that's painful, I feel it. I don't run away from it. I don't escape from it. I don't stuff it down. I don't pretend it's not there. I allow myself to actually feel it, because, like, first of all, like I said, what if I never had experienced it again, if I just let myself, while I had access to it in that moment, feel it?
Yeah, name it, feel it, accept it, own it.
Right, clear it
for what it is, yeah.
And then move back into the flow, move back into the peace, move back into the joy, move back into the calm. So, there's always more work to be doing. So anyone that tells you, like, I'm going to help you get to the end point, whatever that is, there is no end point, guys. And there's always more work to be doing. But it's just a matter of, like, like the work that the space that my work creates for is you all of a sudden, how to handle whatever's coming your way. And not only know how to handle it, but you're embracing it. Like, you're actually like loving it versus going, I don't want this. No.
Yeah.
And so it's a huge shift in the way we look at things, the way we think. Yeah.
So if someone's listening to this and thinking, I know I've got something niggling at me and I'm not quite sure what it is, or I've kind of touched upon it, or I think, because often it's not, we really actually don't know what is at the core, at the heart. If someone's thinking, this really could be something that I'm interested in exploring with Deb, and I like how she's talking about how she can reframe the pain. How do I get in contact with you?
Yeah, so you can head on to my website at www.deboraacker.com. That's DeborahAcker.com. And, just hit the contact page of my website, but you can find out there's a coaching page which has some of the pieces we've talked about here, but it's like we've delved even deeper here than we even have on my coaching page. But you can find out how to work with me on my coaching page. And there's an About Me page. You can find out some more of my story and all those pieces. But so definitely just you can head there to, to find out more about working with me.
Excellent. Wow.
Yeah. So okay. So, it's so funny because we're on topic, and I've been talking a little bit about this creating a great year. And, I want to, like, one other piece I want to bring in. So, on our last episode, I mentioned 3 words that had come up for me, right? Which was blessed, surrender, and roar, right?
Yeah,
And
those are really funny because we were saying that like roar and surrender, that they're a bit
yeah,
they're
totally,
a bit
right?
different. So yeah, really
And roar,
cool.
roar is all about me having my voice and speaking my truth, and not and having my voice, like, where I'm speaking, to audiences. If anyone's that's listening that wants me to have them come speak, speak about this work, right? Speak about what I, share my story, share about reframing our pain. I'd love to do that, but roar is
Yeah,
really
just
about
to let you
me.
know, she'll probably be channeling live at some point as well.
Yeah. Oh, I do. Yeah, I do that all the time. I do that in my classes. So, and also too, like, if you work, if you work in a studio or you have a space, you want me to come teach a class or do an energy clearing, don't hesitate to reach out to me about that as well, because I will be traveling and doing classes around the country this year. But, one thing I'll say is it's really all about me speaking my truth in my relationships, but speaking out, and me having my voice. So that was the roar. And then the surrender is really all me about, again, it's, 2016 was a big year of letting go, of surrendering, of moving into more feminine energy, of allowing and not needing to control anymore. So I'm just taking that word and just bringing it into 2017, because there's definitely some more work I can do on that. And then blessed, being grateful for everything that's around me, right? There's so many times that we take for granted, like the fact that, I've got a roof over my head and I'm in a warm, I live in Chicago, so especially I'm in a warm home right now. And I mean, I'm so abundant. I'm so infinitely grateful and infinitely blessed. And so I just really wanted to put my attention on that and put my focus on that. And so what ended up coming up, kind of as a result of all of that, that encapsulates all of those pieces, is really honoring myself and honoring my work. And so that's really the theme that I'm taking into 2017 is this situation honoring me? Is this situation honoring my work? And so I'm just really, that's just something that's been really, really important to me. And, just a small piece of that, with me honoring and speaking my truth and really making sure that I'm just honoring myself in every moment, is sort of the way, just like many of us, I'm a people pleaser by nature. And I've had a tendency to, just like all of us, like, want to fit in and want to, just, be liked by everyone, right? But many times we're liked by everyone at the cost of our own truth, right? So, many times, when we're trying to fit in, it's at the cost of what we really, really want. And one of the awarenesses that came through, again, that was downloaded through me was, and this is an amazing awareness. So many times, we go to other people, and I used to do this all the time. I used to take one of my friends with me shopping. We'd go shopping. And I'd be like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? Right. And that's a simple example. And it's great to have a friend with you when you go shopping. But many times, in bigger areas of our life, we're like, what do you think I should do? What do you think about this? And we go to somebody.
Jobs, difficult conversations with partners, with bosses, with parents.
Exactly. Relationships, like what moving forward and moving towards our purpose in our life. That's a huge one. Right. And first of all, by nature, most of us are wired to want to be safe and want to stay comfortable. Right. And so, and to do what's logical versus, versus following our heart. Right. And so, just noticing those pieces and noticing like if you're talking to somebody who, may be older than you in this lifetime, but actually is a young soul, they're going to likely give you advice that pulls you back into that logic, into the safety, into what's comfortable, right? They're gonna give you, advice that pulls you out of your purpose, out of your passion, out of the, the direction of your life, and into, hey, but no, over here. And many times, like, a huge piece of this for me is like I walk into a room, and especially some of the old relationships that I used to be with people I used to be closer to, I kind of represent the not to them, right? Because, when someone is, moving towards and living in their truth at a very high level, it's almost like, unintentionally, I'm not doing this intentionally by any means, but it's like look, you're not following your purpose. You're not choosing, because everyone knows, if you have something that's pointing to you, that's picking at you, that's like, that's sort of just tapping on you, that's like, you should do this. We all know that, right? We all have that feeling. And yet many times, we're ignoring it, we're stuffing it down, we're pushing it away.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really important to recognize. And then one of the reframes I've been using for myself is, what would I do now if I didn't care about fitting in? What would I do if I didn't care what people thought? Does this really honor me? Or is this just honoring my old patterns, right? Is this honoring my desire to fit in? And, where I'm being called in my life is, I didn't come here to fit in at all, right? And I didn't come here to follow, to listen to like no one knows more about our path and our truth and our purpose than we do, right? And recognizing most people out there are young souls. I mean, even, in the scheme of everything, we're all pretty young souls, right? But like, there's a lot of people out there that are young souls. So if you're taking advice from someone who is a young soul, then you're likely going to be pulled back into, again, that logic, that safety, that comfort. And so with that, what I want to do is we have just a few minutes here, so it's going to be a really quick clearing. And you guys,
I'm just going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about like kind of being pulled off center from your own truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just in that, I'd like to just mention that Deb's got an amazing truth guide that you can download from her website that really, really takes you through step by step, like identifying your inherited truths versus your own authentic truths.
Yeah.
Which is, do you want to give the URL?
Yeah, it's just at bit.ly/living in your truth guide. So bit.ly/living in your truth guide. And it's also going to be just found at my website, www.deboraacker.com. And so we're going to go through a really quick activation here because we literally have a few minutes to wrap up. And just as an FYI, I know I am always speaking fast. Part of why I do that is actually to bring you guys back into energy state. So I don't want you to be processing this with your mind. I don't want you to be in the logic or being like, what does that mean? I want you just to, it's meant to take you into an energy state. And so with that, I'm just going to have you close your eyes. And just taking a nice deep breath, just breathing in through your nose and just filling your belly and the sides of the body, the chest and the legs with air. And just connecting to the light that's 300 feet above your head. And just bringing this light down into your eyes, down past your nose, down past your ears, down into your neck, across your shoulders, down your torso, down your hips, down your legs, and out through your feet. And back up through your feet, up through your legs, up through your torso, and up through your face. And just expanding that light from above and below and expanding that light out 5 feet, 10 feet. Just see it covering the entire room, the entire building, the entire city and state or country, covering the entire world. Just seeing that light radiating out past the entire world, good, and out past the entire universe. And just everywhere you are using logic, just exhaling that logic out of your body and just breathing in light, breathing in love, breathing in heart, and breathing in intuition. Breathing in light, breathing in love, breathing in heart, and breathing in intuition. And just everywhere you're choosing to be safe, everywhere you're choosing to be comfortable, just exhaling that out and just breathing in truth, breathing in light, breathing in love, breathing in calm. Breathing in truth, breathing in light, breathing in love, breathing in calm, and breathing in truth, breathing in light, breathing in love, and breathing in calm. And just everywhere you are resisting your pain, just exhaling that out and just breathing in growth, breathing in expansion, and breathing in light, and breathing in growth, breathing in expansion, and breathing in light, and breathing in growth, breathing in expansion, breathing in light. One more time, just breathing in growth, breathing in expansion, and breathing in light. And just taking a nice deep inhale and exhale and just slowly bringing yourself back into the room. And just taking one more nice deep breath. And just with that, I want to thank you all for tuning into Truth Talk. I always love hearing from my audience. So if you have a comment on the show or would like to introduce yourself, you can send me a note on the contact page of my website at deboraacker.com. And there you can also sign up for my free Living in Your Truth guide. And again, make sure to tune in 2 weeks as I talk with Hay House author Rebecca Campbell about her new book, Rise, Sister, Rise. In the meantime, I hope you have a great week, and I'll look forward to talking with you next time.
Thank you for listening to Truth Talk Radio with your host, Deb Acker. Tune into Truth Talk Radio every Wednesday at 3 Pacific Time on TransformationTalkRadio.com and experience the truth of who you are and who you came here to be. Each week, Deb interviews an inspiring guest and illuminates the truth to a wide range of topics, including love, life, purpose, career, consciousness, and abundance. Welcome to the world of infinite possibilities. For more information about Deb, including how to contact or work with her, visit truth-talk-radio-show.com. Look forward to seeing you next week for more Truth Talk Radio.